Imagine a world where borders are not just lines on a map, but unbreakable walls that keep outsiders out. While most countries today embrace the idea of immigration to fuel diversity and growth, there are still some places where settling down is merely a dream. These nations have created near impenetrable barriers, turning them into exclusive clubs that few are allowed to enter. From secretive regimes to lavish paradises, these countries have chosen to remain largely untouched by foreign influence. Curious to know where the door is firmly shut in 2024? Brace yourself as we uncover the 10 countries where immigrants are simply not allowed, no matter how hard they try. Number 10. Bhutan. Bhutan, nestled in the Himalayas, is famous for its gross national happiness (GNH) philosophy, which focuses on the well-being of its citizens over economic growth. Bhutan's strict immigration policies reflect this commitment to maintaining cultural and environmental harmony. The government is wary of allowing foreign nationals to settle, as they aim to preserve the country's traditional Buddhist culture and pristine natural landscapes. Bhutan's population is around 800,000, and they maintain tight controls on foreign influences. Even though tourism is one of the country's growing sectors, with 315,600 visitors in 2012, Bhutan heavily regulates it through high tariffs. Foreigners can visit but rarely gain residency. To marry a Bhutanese and settle, one must go through a lengthy legal process, including background checks and proof of contribution to Bhutanese society. Bhutan's priority is to retain its cultural identity and balance its natural resources. Number 9. North Korea. North Korea is arguably the most isolated country in the world, earning its nickname as the Hermit Kingdom. The regime's strict control over its population and its near-total secrecy make immigration nearly impossible. While some foreigners may enter for diplomatic reasons or as carefully monitored tourists, settling in North Korea is not an option. The totalitarian regime under Kim Jong-un has made it clear that it will not tolerate foreign influence that could potentially undermine its iron-fisted control over its citizens. With a population of about 26 million, North Korea is not looking to diversify or expand through immigration. Even escapees and defectors face harsh penalties if caught trying to flee. North Korea's government maintains control of its borders with a military presence, and the country's isolation continues to dominate the international stage. Immigration is virtually non-existent, as the regime prioritizes ideological purity and national security over any form of international integration. Number 8. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is known for its wealth derived from its oil reserves, but it is also one of the most restrictive countries when it comes to allowing immigrants to permanently settle. Foreigners make up about 38% of the population, with many working in construction, healthcare, and domestic service. While the country is dependent on migrant labor, particularly from South Asia, the government offers no clear path to citizenship. The kingdom operates on a system of sponsorship known as kafala, where foreign workers are tied to their employers and have little control over their own legal status. Despite reforms, such as the 2021 introduction of labor law changes aimed at reducing worker exploitation, the situation remains difficult. Long-term residency is available, but it comes with high costs and limited rights. Foreigners cannot own property in most parts of the country, and acquiring Saudi citizenship is extremely rare, ensuring that immigrants remain temporary residents rather than permanent citizens. Number 7. Kuwait. Kuwait is another Gulf nation heavily reliant on foreign labor, yet highly resistant to the idea of immigrants becoming permanent residents. More than 70% of Kuwait's population consists of expatriates, yet the government has consistently maintained restrictive immigration policies to preserve its national identity. Foreign workers, particularly from South Asia, Africa, and the Philippines, come on temporary contracts, but they are rarely offered a chance to settle or gain citizenship. The country operates a sponsorship system similar to Saudi Arabia's, and it has faced criticism for its treatment of migrant workers. The Kuwaiti government has also taken steps to reduce its foreign population, often capping visas or expelling workers during economic downturns. Even though Kuwait has one of the highest GDP per capita rates globally, thanks to its oil wealth, the government remains cautious about allowing foreigners to integrate into society permanently, focusing instead on protecting the interests of its 1.4 million Kuwaiti citizens. Number 6. Vatican City. Vatican City, the world's smallest country by both population and size, does not allow immigrants due to its unique role as the administrative and spiritual headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church. With a population of roughly 800, most of whom are clergy or Swiss guards, the Vatican is not designed for permanent residence outside of religious or official duties. Citizenship in Vatican City is purely functional. It is granted to individuals who serve the Holy See and is revoked once their service ends. For example, Swiss guards who protect the Pope are granted citizenship during their service but lose it upon completing their duty. The Vatican's priority is to maintain its religious and administrative functions, leaving no room for immigration or settlement. Moreover, as the spiritual center for over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, the Vatican is already global in influence without needing to expand its tiny population base through immigration. Number 5. Qatar. Qatar, like many other Gulf countries, relies heavily on foreign labor to fuel its booming economy, especially with the 2022 FIFA World Cup and ongoing infrastructure projects. However, immigrants have virtually no chance of settling permanently in this wealthy nation. Approximately 85% of Qatar's 2.8 million population are expatriates, yet the country's laws make it nearly impossible for foreigners to gain citizenship. Foreign workers in Qatar typically live under temporary work permits, and while the country has introduced reforms aimed at improving labor conditions, like abolishing the kafala sponsorship system, immigrants still face significant restrictions on their rights. In 2018, Qatar announced a new permanent residency program, but it only applies to a very small group of highly skilled professionals, with strict criteria and limited rights compared to citizens. The government's focus remains on preserving the wealth and privileges of Qatari nationals, making immigration and naturalization a distant dream for the country's large foreign workforce. Number 4. Japan. Japan is facing an aging population and labor shortages. But despite these demographic challenges, the country remains largely closed to immigration. With a population of about 125 million, Japan is one of the most homogeneous nations in the world, with over 98% of its residents being ethnically Japanese. Although Japan has implemented programs to bring in foreign workers, especially for manual labor and caregiving, the path to permanent residency and citizenship is extremely difficult. The country issued approximately 345,000 visas under its Specified Skilled Worker program, but these workers are considered temporary and have limited rights. Foreigners who wish to become citizens must navigate a complex process that involves long-term residence, language proficiency, and proving economic self-sufficiency. Japan's strict immigration policies are designed to protect its cultural identity and social stability, and while there are calls for reform, the government remains cautious about opening its doors too wide. Number 3. United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates, UAE, is home to a significant expatriate population, with foreigners making up almost 90% of the country's 10 million residents. Yet, despite the large number of expatriates, the UAE has one of the most restrictive immigration policies when it comes to permanent residency or citizenship. The majority of expatriates work in sectors like construction, hospitality, and finance, but they are in the country on temporary work visas, and there is no clear path to naturalization. The government has introduced long-term residency visas for highly skilled professionals and investors, but these are not citizenship pathways. In 2021, the UAE announced a new Golden Visa program, offering 5 to 10-year residency permits for select categories, including doctors and tech entrepreneurs, but this does not grant the same rights as citizenship. The UAE's focus remains on maintaining a transient workforce while preserving the privileges of its native Emirati population, which only makes up around 11% of the total populace. Number 2. Monaco. Monaco is known for its luxury, exclusivity, and status as a tax haven, but becoming a permanent resident or citizen is an exclusive affair. The principality, with a population of about 39,000, is highly selective about who it allows to settle within its borders. Wealth is a primary criterion for those seeking residency, and applicants must prove significant financial resources to be considered. Buying property in Monaco is also prohibitively expensive, with real estate prices averaging 48,000 euros per square meter, making it one of the most expensive property markets in the world. Citizenship is rarely granted and is typically reserved for those born to Monegasque parents. Those who do manage to gain residency enjoy a tax-free lifestyle, but they are not on a path to citizenship. Monaco's restrictive immigration policies are designed to maintain its status as a small, wealthy enclave for the elite, rather than a destination for mass immigration. Number 1. Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein, a tiny but affluent principality tucked between Switzerland and Austria, has one of the strictest immigration policies in Europe. With a population of just 39,000, the government prioritizes protecting its small size and unique culture. Foreigners wishing to move to Liechtenstein face numerous legal barriers, and even citizens of the European Economic Area, EEA, find it difficult to settle here. The government only grants a very limited number of residency permits each year, and these are usually reserved for skilled professionals or those with family ties. For non-European Union (EU) nationals, the chances of immigrating to Liechtenstein are even slimmer, as the country enforces strict quotas to maintain its cultural balance. In 2023, only about 73 new residence permits were issued, most of them to EU citizens. Acquiring citizenship is even more difficult and usually requires decades of residency, as well as renouncing other citizenships. Liechtenstein's economy thrives on its high-income financial services sector and a robust industrial base, attracting numerous temporary workers. However, the government prefers to keep the country's population small and manageable to maintain its high standard of living and ensure that its citizens enjoy top-notch social services. As a result, immigration is kept at a minimum, and even those who work in the country often reside in neighboring Switzerland or Austria, commuting daily. This strict approach ensures that Liechtenstein remains a close-knit, high-income society where immigration is more of a privilege than a right.